All right, so yeah, I'm Ryan Furr. I am here to talk about building an essential design system using Vercel's Geist as inspiration. I'm a sucker for the rebrand you just recently did with, sort of perfecting the logo and all that jazz. I use Geist in several projects of mine, as I'm sure a lot of us do. You spin up a next project, it's there. So this is me, front-end engineer, like Cap said. I live in Islip on Long Island, yeah. Career transitioner. So I was a musician before this and a buyer or procurement specialist before that. I performed violin and viola in the tri-state area. I did some traveling operas, weddings, musicals, all that stuff. Nothing Broadway, so nothing special, but it was special to me. It was really enjoyable. Yeah, I also like making stuff look good or making shit look good. We can curse here, right? We're adults. I just like having fun with it. It's a lot of fun, and it lets my creativity come out, which is what I miss from the musical side of things. And I am an F1 fanatic. Is anyone else here a fan? Anyone? A couple? All right. Yeah, very bullish on the new Atlassian Williams team. So they were just a title sponsor now. So what is a design system? Well, it's a collection of reusable components and guidelines that ensure consistency and efficiency in designing and building digital products. Basically, it helps your stuff look good across the board. And it's really useful for teams that have any amount of developers, in my opinion, but it just helps maintain that consistency, that same look, that brand look, right? Cool. Let's take a look at Geist. All right. We start right off the bat. You've got your brand assets, which I love. The icons, which you use, to keep that consistency. Components are a huge part of this. I'm sure everyone here knows of Shadcn, right? Your colors, your grid, which is great for your alignment and layout, and your typeface. These are all really important things of a design system, and it's no surprise that Vercel has a very thorough one because it's Vercel, right? However, there's a lot of things that I think those of you building smaller projects, or if you're on your own, can do to create an essential design system to get started. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. In my opinion, and this is my definition, it's a design system that is the essential parts of a design system to get you going on new projects and building your brand. So something I've been focusing on in the last year or so is defining what my brand is. I don't think every project should look the same. But if it's under my umbrella of things, I want it to look good, and a design system helps with that. Again, not all of it should look the same in this case, but for Vercel, you've got Turbo Repo, you've got Vercel, you've got V0, and it's all very, very good looking, but consistent. And that, I think, was one of the most important things. So we have color palette, typography, and preferred styles / basic design principles. Those are what I think makes an essential design system. Where are components? They'll come later because it gets to be a lot. Shadcn's great. Other design, UI libraries are great, but it takes a lot, right? So let's dive in first to our color palettes. So I think that color palettes are really important about your branding, but I tend to start with light theme and then move to dark theme. I'm a dark theme user most of the time, and I didn't want to blind you all today, so most stuff is dark. But of course, I mean, I know my audience, I think. Accessibility, in my opinion, should be number one. For years, it's been an afterthought, and it should not be. So we'll talk more on that later, but when you're picking out your colors, please make sure they're accessible. Number two is your brand colors. What color or colors do you want to speak to you? Vercel is very monochrome. That's cool. I'm here for it. Most of my stuff is too. And less is more. There are some designs that are very colorful, rainbowy. They look great. It's not my forte. It could be yours. Go for it. But if you are uncomfortable with it or just getting started, less is more. So we see here that these are sort of my colors and variants that or variables rather, that I start with. A main background, heading / primary color, card background, my muted primary, border / outline, and accent. What does this look like? Anyone? Any UI library out there? Tailwind and Shadcn. I took Shadcn stuff. I said, I like how they do it. Let me build off of this. So I built this little thing. It looks a little bit chaotic, but I only had since Sunday night to put this together, so bear with me. So on the right here, we have my different variables, variables. We can see the main background is this light gray. My heading / primary color is this dark gray. Again, this is just using built-in Tailwind, Zinc, and Shadcn UI. Then we have my card background, which is the near white. This is FA in hex codes. My muted primary color, which I use for all text that aren't headings. You notice that headings are in the primary color. And then my border outline. What's the one thing that stands out here is this orange. This is kind of like inspired by Dieter Rand's red-orange thing. Again, I kind of like minimal stuff. It's used very sparingly. Right now, it's only used on your current route, just to highlight where you're at. But it'll also be used in a couple of other places that I have, on hover over the home icon and on hover over the cards. On mobile, though, since we don't have hover, I have that orange on by default, just so that way you get a splash of color on mobile. And if you think I look like this guy, I wouldn't blame you. But it made sense to me, so I hope it made a little sense to you. These are some tools that I love. Figma's color palette generator. Color Hub is great for getting a bunch of other color palettes. Real-Time Colors is a great site made by a YouTube creator, Juxtaposed. Some really cool videos of redesigning popular apps and websites and doing the work we all need to be done on certain UIs like Spotify or X or Steam. I can go into it. Moving on from color palettes is typography. So like colors, it's, what feeling, aesthetic vibe do you want to go for on your site? Typically more premium stuff uses serif fonts. It's coming back into favor a lot more, I see. I'm using them on my new site. And I pair it with sans serif. Geist is a sans serif font. They also have their mono font, Geist Mono. Font pairings are exactly what they sound like. You put together 2 or more fonts. However, again, you could go crazy. I don't recommend it. I recommend 1 or 2. You can get away with one font using different font colors, different font widths or weights, I should say, and letter spacing can do a lot for that. So Inter is another really popular font. They actually recommend that you tighten the letter spacing when using it as a heading or a display text because it just makes it different. So you can do that all yourself. I'm using 3 fonts on my new site. It goes against what I recommend. Yeah, I wasn't going to at first, but in a way to sort of personalize my site a little bit, have some more fun with it, I threw in permanent marker. We're going to scroll down here. It's only in 2 places, really. The nav bar at the top and my sign-off on my About page. Obviously, I don't speak lorem ipsum, so this is just place copy right now. But it's to be used like an accent color, in my opinion. You don't want it everywhere, otherwise it doesn't become an accent color, and it's not doing or conveying what you want. So after that, we talk about type scaling. Type scaling is something that's not mandatory, but in my opinion, it makes things a lot smoother for your visitors. So we're going to visit a site called Utopia for this. Actually, I think it's on the next slide, yeah. Type scale is a predefined set of font sizes used to create a consistent style and visually appealing typographic hierarchy across the design. That's a lot of words to say that type scale just helps your fonts grow and grow and shrink based on your viewport size, but in a more consistent manner than creating different font sizes for your viewport size. That sounds confusing. We'll get into it. We're going to open up Utopia. Does anyone here know of this tool? I learned about it from Andy Bell. Love his content. There's a lot of stuff here. I typically only use the type for now, and this is great. You can set your min and max viewport, and type scales are based on musical intervals. So you have minor thirds, major thirds, perfect fourths, things like that. So you can put in whatever your min and max viewport is, what your preferred font sizes are. So if you have 16 as your root, as your smallest, great. And then you come down here and it does a bunch of work for you. So again, this looks like gibberish. That's fine. I don't even pay attention to this so much. But I integrate this with Tailwind in an, I don't want to say unique way, but I like how I do it. I treat 0 as the base font size as it does here. Then you have small and extra small Tailwind font sizes. And then you have XL, or XL and 1XL or 2XL, 3XL, so forth. And you just export your CSS. It's using the clamp function, which again is wonderful, probably underused in a lot of places. But what this does then is it expands and contracts the font size based on your viewport width, ensuring that it's always a minimum font size and a maximum. So you can make it so that your step 0 is going to be bigger than your step 1, but you shouldn't do that typically. You can. but it just makes for a smoother experience, and also those jarring breakpoint jumps when you see different font sizes getting put into play. This is from my current portfolio site on Tailwind version 3.4, I think. So not using the latest stuff. That's why I'm making a new portfolio site, because it's a new year. But the important thing here is that I'm using their font sizes and just expanding on it. So extra small through 5XL, and I threw in the calc functions from Utopia. And then in my globals, I'm just applying that to each header. And then for my sake, I put it in the comments since there were two different files before. But now when I resize my website, again, those font changes are much smoother, and I think it's easier to find those good font sizes for you. Not mandatory, but I think you should check it out. These are three resources I like. Google Fonts, we all heard of it, we probably all use it. Font Pair, if you're unsure about how to pair fonts together, look for other tools. Font Pair is one of them, because not all fonts go together. And you don't have to use more than one. Again, you can get away with a lot with font weights, font sizes, letter spacing, all that jazz, and colors. And then of course Utopia, huge fan of their stuff. There's devs there doing the things that I don't know, so and that's most services we use. Design principles and important decisions. How am I doing on time? Good. Like I said before, accessibility should not be an afterthought. It's 2025. If you're not thinking about accessibility when you're creating your front end, you're doing your customer base a disservice. And so many people still, I will do reviews of their portfolios or projects. People ask me to. I'm surprised. Like, I don't have that authority in my mind, but here I am giving a talk, so I guess, whatever. But don't forget the low-hanging fruits. Your colors are not accessible. Your links don't have a name. I mean, there's like super basic stuff that you can find in a Lighthouse audit of your site. It's built into Chrome. You can visit their website. Like, why not? DQ is a great site for expanding more on accessibility. They have a browser extension, and they actually just had a virtual conference last week. You might still be able to sign up and see some of the talks. I highly encourage you, especially everyone realistically, but if you're a front-end engineer and you don't know accessibility, please look into it. Okay, these are like design ideas or decisions you have to make. This is all part of a design system. Rounded or sharp corners. Rounded corners are in right now, for the most part. They're having a moment. Shadows or flat design, that's up to you. Do you want shadows when you hover over an object, or to create that depth, right? Because realistic art sites are a stack, so you have the base layer all the way up to the top stuff, which is why you often see different, why do you see cards having a lighter background than the background? Because they create that depth effect without needing a shadow, but you can do it. Brutalism is another idea. And then we have spacing and layout. This can make or break your site, in my opinion, and it's very difficult to get right. But if you use Tailwind like a lot of us, it's easy. Even if you don't use Tailwind, you can make it easier on yourself. But be consistent in whatever you do, especially when it comes to layout. I think it's really easy to get things a little bit sloppy. Yeah, I'm a fan of memes, can you tell? So if there's not enough white space, things will look cramped. I'm sure we've all experienced it. We've all developed things like it. If there's too much white space, things feel disconnected. Finding that sweet spot, the Goldilocks, or just right, it's really important, and it takes a lot of work and effort to get there, in my opinion. I guess I didn't touch on it, but I do. Oh, here we go. Start with more white space than you think and dial it backwards. This is actually taken from Refactoring UI, a book by the creators behind Tailwind. It's a really good advice because you start with more, you dial it back, and think I'm good. If you start with too little, I find you either don't add enough or you add too much, and things look a little funky. We've all used forms that don't really feel right because the button's a little too far, or it's too close and it looks unbalanced. These are like little details that go a long way into polishing up your UIs. But so again, be consistent. I think Tailwind, a class that I don't see used a lot, is the space Y or space X dash whatever. It's built on their same spacing paradigm, but it helps create really uniform spacing between those elements. So you could use on a parent div, and then use space Y4 will create space on the Y-axis between those elements, the child elements of it. Play around with it, it's really useful. PageSpeed Insights is the website for Lighthouse. DQ's Axe extension, I'm sure it's for every browser out there. I'm pretty sure they wouldn't make it otherwise. And again, Utopia, they're getting featured a lot, but they make some really good tools. Have fun with design. Don't be afraid to try new things. Don't go with the flow all the time. It's really easy with Tailwind especially, and ShadCN or other UI libraries to just make everything look the same. I use ShadCN, but then I personalize it. You have to personalize it. I know, like, I love the minimal look. I do. I'm a sucker for it. But you just, if it's not your own, right? It's someone else's. Use the tools available to you. They're there for a reason. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You know, just do it. I think it's a muscle that you have to flex. It's not, and learning taste is another muscle you have to flex. So you only learn it by putting in the reps and making mistakes. I mean, another fun fact, I taught myself how to beatbox. I'm not great. But guess how I did it? By being... All right, hold on. What I was going to say is you get comfortable with being stupid. I'm very basic for like college a cappella. Yeah, like, you know, I could go on, but I won't bore you. And that's everything I got for you. Go ahead and scan that if you want to see the slides. I wrote it all up in Notion so you can read along with it. I'll be posting the video that I've been recording, and I'm probably going to do more publishing of this as well, just because it's fuller fleshed and you can get through my Long Island accent a little bit easier. One more thing. I'm looking for work. I currently work at a part-time job at a consulting agency, and I'm going to shoot my shot since I'm here. Sorry. Connect with me there. I'm in everywhere, but you know, this is my bento thing, so feel free to connect with me. And thank you.